and welcome to the webinar for changing career from Oracle Technical to Functional Consultant. Those of you who doesn't know me, my name is Kipir Khan and I'm Oracle's Solution Architect, having over 13 years of experience in Oracle Advanced Procurement, Financials, and Supply Chain Management. So this webinar has been specifically designed for technical consultants who are working in Oracle eBusiness Suite, and they are actually looking forward for switching their career on the functional stream. Having said that, I have covered a number of interesting topics. So going through the agenda, we will actually start by understanding what are the different kinds of Oracle consultants which we can potentially see as a part of a project. And out of those, we will concentrate on the technical consultants, and we will understand from a perspective of technical consultant as to what are their career myth, what are their pain points, and the challenges they face when they wish to change their career to the functional stream. Then we will go through the differences in terms of work responsibilities, the task, skills required for a technical consultant versus a functional consultant. Then we'll understand what are the different kind of attributes which is really required to be a successful functional consultant. And that's where I will take you through a number of roles and responsibilities that are required for being a successful functional consultant. And I have collated this out of my own experience being a functional consultant working from over a decade. Then we will move on to planning and defining a structured career path to switch the career from a technical to a functional consultant. So that way we will understand what are the attributes you've got to grasp as a technical consultant to slowly transform your career into functional consultant. Finally, we will go through a couple of resources which can be potentially utilized to expedite your Oracle functional career path. Then we will end by having a quick question and answer session. So let's start with the first topic of what are the different kinds of Oracle consultants. So here you would see I have categorized into three areas. So in a typical project or a support scenario, you will see three different kinds of Oracle consultant. One is of technical consultant, the second one is in a category of functional, and the third one comes in project management. I haven't gone much into project management because I thought this webinar is mostly to do with career change between technical and functional, so I haven't expanded it much. Now coming back to the technical category, in a technical category you can subdivide that technical categories into consultants such as solution architect or a developer or a DBA. All of them are known as technical consultants. Again, you can subdivide into by areas, for example, Oracle databases or Oracle middleware, Oracle business intelligence, or Oracle eBusiness Suite. But on the whole, in terms of the categories, they are the major categories. Fine. When you move on to the functional career path, you will see consultant. Again, one consultant which is not listed here could be called as a functional solution architect. Then that functional solution architect could work with a number of functional consultants in different streams. And what are those streams? Those streams could be in financials, it could be in procurement, it could be in HRMS or manufacturing, CRM or supply chain management, or there could be more streams out there. So the functional role is more or less very divided into just two categories, I should say. One is a solution architect as a functional guy, and then second is a functional consultant. Finally comes the project management. Now let's go to the next topic of understanding the common career myth, pain points and challenges heard from Oracle technical consultants. Now these are my personal views in terms of collation that I've heard from a number of technical consultants, and that's where I've shared, but they are not the all list, and there could be more or there could be less. All right, so let's go through what I've heard. So commonly what I've heard out of the pain areas are the technical consultant would say, I do the whole work as far as the project is concerned, the delivery is concerned, but the functional consultant take the whole credit from me, and finally he get the credit of the whole work. So I'm like hiding in the background doing all the work, but no one sees me. The second pain point what I've heard is they say I'm a techno-functional consultant and I've been working for say X amount of years as a technical consultant now, so I know both technical and functional aspect of Oracle applications, but unfortunately I'm still unable to get through the job interviews and I'm unable to get through a job of a functional consultant. The third pain area what I see is, in a way, technical consultants say, I want to know full Oracle process flow, so end-to-end process flow. Since as a technical consultant, I was involved in some areas of process flows only. As an example, a technical consultant is involved in coding for some reports or probably say some interfaces in relation to say order management module. So he's involved in to say coding of generating a order acknowledgement report, or maybe customizing an order acknowledgement report, adding some logos, so that technical consultant would know the process flow of how an order and acknowledgement is sent to the customer. So it could be probably starting from entering the order, then scheduling it, booking it, and then sending the order acknowledgement. So he would know that, but the disconnect comes into picture that he wouldn't know what's the rest of the process flow. For example, how the picking happens, how the move order happens, how the shipping happens, how the invoices get generated, and so on. So that's part of the whole process flow. So that's where the technical consultants who have worked in areas which are polarized specifically for the customization they have done, they wouldn't have the knowledge of the whole end-to-end process flow. Then the last pain point is about the AIM methodology. Now, a number of people are ignorant about the AIM methodology, how it works. So AIM basically stands for Oracle's application implementation method. And again, within AIM, you've got two different kinds of methodologies. One is a traditional approach, it's called as a waterfall approach. And the second one is based on a business flow approach. So the first one in Oracle terms, it's called as AIM for foundation, and the second one is called as AIM for business flows. Now what happens is a lot of people get confused in terms of the documentation used, in terms of how the project runs, in terms of the acronyms used for documentation, such as say BR100 or BP30 or BP80 and so on. So just for your understanding, basically BR stands for business requirements, and like that BP stands for business process and so on. But it's not just the acronyms. The disconnect comes from the view that they don't know how to go about documenting it and the content that goes into it, how to maintain it, and so on. All right, so those are the main pain points that I have encountered in terms of the technical consultants communication, but there are a lot more, but this is something which I thought I should highlight it to you. In terms of the other myths that I have heard are, as an example, they say functional consultant role has more on-site opportunities, hence more money. But I'll tell you, to be honest, I would say that a technical consultant also have equally huge number of opportunities as a functional consultant. I've seen a lot of very successful technical consultants even earning more than what functional consultant would have earned. But again, it depends from job to job, project to project, and the kind of duties and responsibilities a particular consultant is holding and delivering to the client. All right, then the second myth is, I have so many skills and I know all the process flows. How to quickly become a functional consultant? So a technical consultant, although working in different areas of Oracle applications, they would assume that they would know the processes, which is true to an extent, but the issue comes in the form of they wouldn't know the end-to-end processes because they have been involved into supporting or customizing specific areas of applications or application modules. So that's where they need some kind of a coaching and help to let them understand the end-to-end process flow to turn their career to become a functional consultant. Then the third myth is functional consultant earn more salary than technical consultant, but work-wise, technical consultant has to do more. Well, that's a myth, but as I have said before in the first point, in terms of the money, it's probably equal and it depends from job to job or project to project. But when it comes to the work also, the work is equally, I would say, equally just like technical consultant. A technical consultant is more around coding, designing, and development and delivering, whereas a functional consultant is more towards the business side. So he has to deal with a couple of other aspects, which I'm going to explain you in a little while as we proceed to the next movies, to let you understand that what's the exact difference between the jobs that's performed by these two kind of consultants. Finally, this is the myth that again I've seen is my boss is not letting me change career path to functional consultant. And again, that's a myth, but I would say it all depends on opportunities where you're working. So if you're working in a place wherein you've been hired for technical consultant, and if there are already a number of functional consultants working, and if there are no opportunities in place, then what can your boss do? His hands are also tied. But if there are opportunities in functional area, then certainly he would consider you in potentially looking as a functional role. So it all depends on what is there in the pipeline, what are the number of people who are working, what are the projects which are coming up, and so on. All right. So having said that, so these were the pain points and challenges. They're not specific, they're very generic, but there are many more. So let's go through a couple of other things as in terms of the differences in work and responsibilities, in terms of what a technical consultant will do versus what a functional consultant will do. And you can basically clearly identify and demarcate them, and then you can go back to the pain points and the myths, and that's where you will understand there were really myths and the reality is probably something different. All right, so let's go through the work and responsibilities that a technical consultant do versus a functional consultant. All right, so I've just done a kind of a comparison over here. So on the left hand side, you would see the roles, tasks, and responsibilities that a technical consultant will do as a part of project or as a part of support work, whereas the right side is for the functional consultant. So let's go through the technical consultant side. Now, as I said, a technical consultant role comes into picture when a functional consultant passes the solution to him. So as an example, if a form has to be designed and developed, then a functional consultant will first go back to the business team to understand why there is a requirement for some form designing or maybe adding some extra field to that form. And then second thing he will do it is, after understanding the requirement, he will come back and he will try to do some homework in finding a solution, a standard Oracle solution. But if he is unable to find, then he will write a proposal and propose a technical customization solution. And while he is doing that, he will consult the technical consultant to take their advice, go back to the business team, present the solution, and if everyone is okay in terms of the solution plus the costs involved, it will be signed off. And that's where the technical consultant will come into picture. So I've told this one very quickly to you, but in terms of this whole cycle I've told you, there are a number of places a technical consultant comes into picture. Now the cycle that I told you, in that the development hasn't started as yet. Okay, so until that point, the technical consultant will be communicating with a functional consultant to analyze the solution first and to propose a recommendation in terms of technical design. That's point one. And once a solution has been signed off, then it comes to technical solution, and he will be passing that to the technical consultant to actually analyze and design a solution. And once it has been done, to actually document that solution, and then based on that documentation to code that customization. Now here customization I'm actually referring to as a CAMLI. CAMLI stands for customization, extensions, modifications, localization, and interfaces. Alright, so I'm not going to go much into the CAMLI side. So each of these are potentially self-explanatory, which basically takes care of customizations into the reporting side or forms side or interfaces side, or maybe some form of country specific localizations. Then the technical consultant also do logical thinking, and he's analytical. So obviously when he has got to build a code, he has got to think about the logic of building that code. So it involves more logical thinking and analysis before the code is written and implemented. Then a technical consultant is solution focused with good technical applications, tools, and coding knowledge. As an example, if a report has to be customized, then a technical consultant would know that how Oracle developer works in terms of customizing that reports, the SQL to be written, so he would know how to write an SQL and probably how to use an SQL developer to test that SQL before he putting that down in the report. Then he may be knowing something called as XML publisher if logos have to be added in that report, so that's another kind of a tool. And then certainly he must have coding knowledge. So apart from SQL, which is a part of the code, there could be chance that he may have to write some stored procedure and call it in the code in the report. So that requires coding knowledge. So a technical consultant is focused around so many different areas. All right. Then a next one in terms of responsibilities, a technical consultant basically involves communication mostly with other functional consultants, as I've explained you how the functional consultant communication with technical consultant comes into picture. Then he could also involve in communication with other technical consultant. As an example, the same example I was talking about, report side. So in terms of the report, the technical consultant will be interacting with functional consultant to understand the requirement which is documented, say in the document called as MD50. And once he understands it, then he will go and write them the coding, and once the coding has been written, he will unit test it and then deliver it to functional person to test it for a functional testing. But what happens is when a functional person tests it, there could be chances that he might have some questions or he might discover some issues. So it requires a close coordination, and functional consultant will go back to technical person to fix those issues and could be potential bugs. And that's where more communication comes into picture. So that's one example of how the interaction comes into picture. The second example is when a technical consultant is actually doing some kind of an integration. So that would not only involve solution, understanding the solution from a functional perspective, but he has got to speak to probably another technical consultant. So say if he's something like a PLSQL developer and an integration is involving say Oracle middleware, then in that case there would be a separate technical consultant who would write the integration code for Oracle middleware and work very closely with this PLSQL developer, and this PLSQL developer will work with functional consultant to finally deliver the code. So that's how communication with more than one technical consultant can come into picture. The last point highlights the issue which is most of the time I've heard as a pain area from technical consultant, that they don't end up in speaking to business users, or they've got low interaction with business users. And that's where, because of this, they believe that all the work done by them, the credit is taken by a functional consultant. But that's not true. In diverse and large teams, the credit is given to everyone individually. That's what I believe, based on the work they deliver. Okay, but certainly a technical consultant, in terms of extent of communication with business user, it is lesser as compared to a functional consultant. Then coming to the jobs, roles, and responsibilities that a functional consultant does. So the first point here is a functional consultant is basically he provides the solution to business pain areas. So in order to do that, there could be multiple ways it can be done. First way is he can demonstrate standard Oracle functionality to them through Oracle business process flows and by setting up Oracle applications, which is what I have written here. So once he demonstrated that to business team would know that, okay, that's the standard Oracle process flow, but what they wanted is something different, and that's where they will start giving the requirement, and this functional guy will start jotting down those requirements and taking his notes. And once the requirement has been taken down, he will go back and do his homework of analyzing those business requirements, and once he analyzes it, then he will probably map it with standard Oracle solution to see if there is a standard solution there in place or not. And if it is there, then he will architect a solution and go back to the business team to present that solution. But as a part of that architecting, he might have to do configuration of Oracle module setups, and that's what I've written, configuration of Oracle functional setups. So but what happens is sometimes the requirements given by a business team do not have a standard Oracle solution. So in that case, he's got to scratch his head and he's got to think as to what could be the best solution. And he's got to not only think the best solution for business requirement, he's also got to keep the cost in mind, because cost also matters. If he gives a very good solution but the cost is 3 times the budget, then that wouldn't be acceptable. So he has got to think from both the ends, okay, in terms of the cost plus in terms of the solution, and in terms of the delivery that he is going to give in terms of the business requirements. So he has got to keep all these things in mind. So anyway, if a standard solution couldn't be found, then a functional consultant will work closely with a technical consultant. So he will have some limited knowledge in terms of technical areas. So before he proposed that to the business team, he has got to consult to a technical consultant to understand where or how it can be done, and whether it can be done or not. That's where a technical consultant advice will come. And then he will go back to the business team and present that solution. So, and that could happen, in an iterative cycle, wherein business team may ask for some more things. He go back to technical consultant and take his advice, and then go back and present to business team, do analysis, and then design, and so on and on. So it's an iterative cycle as a part of the project. So the idea of telling you that is a functional consultant not just deals with business users, but he also deals and works very closely with technical consultant. And apart from that, certainly as a part of a project, there will be a project manager. So a functional consultant also deals with a project manager. It could be a technical project manager or a commercial project manager. So basically he is dealing with multiple parties. Then point number 7 is, once a technical solution has been coded by a developer, he will come back and deliver it to the functional consultant, and functional consultant will actually go and test that solution. And once his functional testing is over, he will give it to the business team to test it to get a sign off. And finally, business team, they test it, then he makes sure that it is going to the next phase of the project until the business team satisfies that it is ready for a migration to production instance or going live of the project. So in other words, this whole process of gathering requirement, working with multiple parties to get a solution, taking their sign off, involves a significant change, and that's where I've written the last point, change management. So he will be not only responsible for Oracle solution, but he will also be kind of supporting the business change, plus he will also be supporting the business users in making this change successful and transitioning to a complete Oracle system. So you understand now at a very high level what are the differences in terms of roles, tasks, and responsibilities between a technical consultant and a functional consultant. So having said that, let's move on and let's understand what are the attributes to be a successful functional consultant. So as most of you would have understood by now by my explanation from in terms of the job or duties performed by a technical and functional consultant as to what attributes are really required to be a good functional consultant. However, I still feel that we should go through a number of roles or duties that are required to be a successful functional consultant. So that's where I have written it down. I've just categorized into two areas. One is a must-have skills and the second is other skills, which are like discretionary. It's good to have for a good project outcome. So let's start with the must-have skills. The first and foremost and extremely important skill is a functional consultant must have very good communication skills. Now, by good communication skills, I'm not saying it should be English. It could be any language that in which a project is supported and executed. For example, if you're in France and if your users are French and if your technical people are French, then the majority of people will be speaking French. So it's good to have good communication skills in French. Likewise, if you work in a project wherein majority of the parties speak English, then you must have good English communication skills. So in summary, you should have or you must have good communication skills, because as a functional consultant, you will be dealing with a number of different business users, a number of different technical consultants and project managers. Then the second point is a functional consultant must be customer focused with ability to extract requirement information from multiple parties. Now, out of my own experience, this is I have written, because what happens is in a large organization, when you go and implement a big change, then you'll find some users who are very supportive of that change, but you will find some users are not that supportive. There could be various reasons for that. So in order to gather that support, if a functional consultant must be very agile, he must be flexible, and he must be customer focused. As an example, I will share one example wherein I have implemented a big purchasing system, and one of the users wasn't giving us the whole requirements in terms of the existing system. And I was scratching my head as to what should I do. And then finally I thought, okay, perhaps let's try this. Maybe I should go sit with him personally for an hour and then show him the functionalities of standard Oracle right there in a demo Oracle instance. And that's what I have done it. I've taken his appointment, set up a time with him and gone and sat with him for an hour, and I've taken him through the standard process flows which were affecting his job, or I should say in which he was working, and it was related to his job. And at the end of that, he was extremely happy, because and then I realized that, and he openly told me that he didn't get the hang of Oracle process flows in previous sessions that were shown to him, and that's the reason he was a little hesitant in putting a step forward. And after that, we got his full support and cooperation, and perhaps I should say he became one of the best users. So that's where I was coming. So one has to be very customer focused, and one should have a creative or different abilities to extract the requirement from a business team. Unless you know the end requirement or the ultimate requirement from business team, how can you map that to an Oracle solution? And if the requirement is not fully complete, and if you work on an incomplete requirement, then it would mean an incomplete solution. So that's where this attribute comes into picture. Then the third point is a functional consultant must be innovative and he must have ability to give good Oracle solution without involving much customizations. What happens is, a specific organization, if they are implementing Oracle, they have already invested millions or thousands of dollars in terms of purchasing Oracle licenses or Oracle software licenses. Fine, so they've already done significant investment. Now it's a time of implementation. So they will have a finite budget in terms of implementing that Oracle product within their organization. So if we bring customizations into picture as a part of the project, then it will simply blow off that budget, because customization would involve involving multiple parties, not just technical consultant. There could be testers, and then time spent by a functional consultant himself in proposing a solution, then working with the business team. So everyone's time goes into customization. So customizations are something like they are very costly. So a good functional consultant would be someone who gives standard Oracle solutions rather than customized solution to the business team. And that's where I have come from for this point, as to a functional consultant must be innovative, and he should have the ability to give good Oracle solution without involving much customizations. Then a functional consultant must have full knowledge of end-to-end Oracle process flows. As an example, if a module, say receivables, is getting implemented, or receivable financial solution is getting implemented, and you work closely with accountants in or finance department of the company, then their process is probably before Oracle gets implemented, could be they might have an inbuilt internal system, or they might have another system, or they may be doing everything manually via Excel file or small systems. And because of that, they were looking for a end-to-end system which can have a closed loop, it can involve tracking and so on. So basically you've got to show the value to the end users. Only then they will buy in for an Oracle solution. Otherwise they'll say that we are happy with what we have. As simple as that. So unless you know the end-to-end process yourself, how would you let others appreciate what value Oracle is adding? And hence this is the point I'm trying to say, that you must have an end-to-end Oracle process flow knowledge before you go and approach the business team for an implementation. So this is a must-have skill of a functional consultant. Then you must be able to implement an Oracle processes according to the client requirements. So client, as I said previously in the previous points, that client will come out with a number of requirements, and you should be able to give them a Oracle solution which doesn't involve much customization, plus it should also meet their requirement. If their requirement is something and you give some solution, some other solution, then that's not something which would be beneficial to the business. And chances are that it would be not accepted by the business team. So having said that, you got to have good Oracle knowledge and good Oracle processes knowledge to be a good functional consultant. Then lastly, it is also very, very important thing is, when you speak to the business team, then first thing is you got to speak like a business language. So if you speak to business team and you start speaking technical terms, then it'll go from above their head. So they won't understand the kind of solution they're giving, and then they will keep nodding their head. But so while as a part of communication with the business team, you should be able to understand their requirement, and then you should be able to translate those requirement, find out the solution, and while communicating back to them, you should be able to communicate in the same business terms rather than communicating in IT terminology. There are ways and means of doing it, in the sense how good communicator you are. You can easily explain an IT terms in layman's English. Okay, so that's how it has to be. And likewise, while you are translating a business requirement to a solution, and if you've got to work with the technical consultant, in such a case you have to or you must be able to translate that business requirement from business terms into technical language. Because what happens is, the technical developer may not be able to understand the same business terminology, and that's where the disconnect comes into picture, which you will bridge by translating that business requirement to technical terms and letting the technical consultant understand. You know what I'm saying? So these are the must-have skills. There could be many more, but this is what I should say. It must be there in a functional consultant to be successful in the project. Whereas on the other side, which as I just said, a number of other skills. So let's go through that. A functional consultant must be able to analyze change on business and people. So he should be able to understand the impact of change on of the processes which are going to change in Oracle, and accordingly he should work. And although I have explained to you in summary, but it makes a lot of difference if you understand the change as a part of a project, and you can act accordingly as a part of the project team. All right, the second point here is a functional consultant must be able to understand risk involved in bringing a change. So what could be the risk involved? Anything you can think about. Okay, let's just give an example. I was working with one of the clients, and the client, it was basically a advanced procurement implementation, and we were implementing the whole of advanced procurement and financial suite of products. And one requirement was client suddenly came in the middle of the project is that they don't want a direct access of Oracle instance to their suppliers. So one of the modules that we were implementing was a supplier facing module, wherein supplier could have access to Oracle forms. And obviously for that the client has to open their ports within their firewall so that supplier can interact, and the form will be displayed on supplier's computer, right? But the client saw that as a security threat. They were a little bit security conscious, and they said that we don't want that to happen. We don't want to open our firewall, so instead give us some other solution. And the solution they were looking for is, they said, okay, we would want to create another server which will exclusively store supplier related forms and information, and then it will not directly communicate with our server. Now I'm not going to go into the solution what we proposed finally and for how it was resolved, because it will take some more time, and it's a completely different topic. And so my idea is to explain you this. So in this case, the client has come back with an unusual requirement on a risk which was not taken while the project was executed. So had the team involved in the project analyze this risk, then it would mean that lesser time spent on mitigating the risk at a time when it was raised in the middle of the project. So basically what happened is that as a part of the solution, we had to scratch our head, and we took a few days time, and finally we come back to a solution. And it was not too long, it was just a couple of days thing. But the point is, as part of the project, it took a couple of days wherein the whole team was waiting for the next steps in the project. So that's where analyzing risk mitigation comes into picture, especially as a part of large projects. You sometimes involve a person who will be dedicated to writing a risk management plan and mitigating those risks, and it could be someone who could be part of the project team. So luckily at that time we had a separate person who was looking after a risk management plan, but somehow missed that, and that's where we missed this particular requirement from the client. Anyway, so that was the point I wanted to stress. The third point here is a functional consultant must be able to work with multiple parties. I guess this is something I have explained to you earlier, which include business users, technical consultants, project managers, solution architects, and testers. So a lot of people are involved in this, and he should be a good communicator, and he should be flexible and agile to work with these number of people. Lastly, a functional consultant should be able to plan ahead and look for successful outcomes, resulting in completion of project in budgeted time, cost, and targeted business objectives. Certainly, the idea of engaging a functional consultant is that the business objectives are met in terms of the IT solution and in terms of taking off the business pain areas by giving them a complete Oracle solution. So he should be able to look ahead in terms of the solution what he are proposing, and once he propose, and whether it will be accepted or whether it will open another set of can of worms which have to be addressed later on and which would impact the project and the outcomes of the business. So in summary, these are couple of attributes which I thought could result in a successful functional consultant out of my own experience plus the feedback I have received from my earlier customers and clients. Now let's proceed further to understand how a technical consultant can really plan and define a structured career path so that he can easily transition to a career as a functional consultant. So what I have given here, I have shown you out of my best knowledge as to what could be the best way of doing it out of my over 13 years of experience. So I would recommend people to first take this step of first choosing a functional career path based on their previous technical experience and based on their career goals. As an example, if I have been working as a technical consultant into financials area, then certainly I would like to be a functional consultant in the financials area because I have got a technical know-how already, and maybe I am calling myself as a technical functional consultant, so I know pretty well about the financial process flow in terms of data flow from table side, but I want to learn how to implement that whole process from the business point of view, what's the end-to-end process flow and so on. So that's where aligning your background with what you want to achieve works a lot. Likewise, if you're working in say manufacturing and you are supporting you're into Oracle support for manufacturing project, so you have worked in a number of areas in BOM, WIP, and say engineering modules, so you're pretty good into that, you're pro in costing and so on. So now you would like to change. Now you really don't want to change from manufacturing to financial, would you? You wouldn't, right? So you certainly look for something similar as to what you've been doing. So that's where aligning your previous technical experience to a functional career path matters a lot, and this is exactly what I have shown you. So as an example, if you're working in say the manufacturing side, so Oracle career path or business process flow would be demand to build. Likewise, if you're working on the procurement side, which involves sourcing and purchasing, then you should be looking for something called as procure to pay. If you're involved in planning side, then you would be looking for something called as concept to release or forecast to plan process flow. And each of these process flow will involve a number of Oracle modules which you may want to learn as a part of become a successful functional consultant. So likewise, I've listed all the different kind of process flows. So once you've chosen which process flow you would like to have based on what you have been doing as a functional consultant, then the next step comes into picture. So what's the next step? So step number 2 is you've got to align your again, it's pretty much the same thing, but out of that process flows that you've chosen, you've got to choose a related set of modules. Fine, as an example, if you have been working in supporting the order management side, the example I've taken a little while ago around say writing in an order acknowledgement report, so you know the process, how to enter an order, how to schedule an order, book an order, and then how to generate an order acknowledgement, but more than that you don't know, so your knowledge is limited. Now order to cash process flow is a huge process flow which involves not just order management module, it involves pricing module, it involves shipping, it can involve warehouse management, it can involve transportation management, it can and it involves inventory, Then it involves advanced pricing, and then receivables. It could involve collections and so on. So it's a very big process flow. So likewise, out of that process flow, you should be able to select, again based on your previous experience, the modules that you would like to select. So if you have been working in order entry or order management module already, then you would prefer modules which are very closely linked to that order management. As an example, you would prefer a module, say pricing, which is linked to order management. You would prefer a module, say shipping and warehousing, which is very closely works with order management. You will pick a module, inventory. So you must learn all these to be a successful functional consultant. It's not that you just learn order management and you don't learn the shipping, pricing and inventory part. Then it's a disconnected information. You will not be able to give complete solution to the business. You got to have the whole end-to-end process flow knowledge in Oracle. Only then you can give a solution to the business team. As simple as that. And also you've got to remember that no one is a pro in this field. Okay, a pro in the sense no one is having a full knowledge in this field. Okay, everyone will have limited knowledge. So what happens is, at the end of the day, if they don't know something, people simply go and see the implementation manuals, they refer to the user guides, they refer to the reference guides, and finally dig out and find the solution and give it to the business team. But even for that to happen, you've got to have good functional knowledge in that area to dig around and find the solution to business requirements. You know what I'm saying? So that was an example for order to cash. Likewise, if you've got a finance background, you can go and choose and handpick the Oracle financial modules in which you would like to switch your career into. So let's say here, like for in terms of the financials, I've given you the example. So if you are working as an accountant, then you will be able to understand Oracle subledger accounting module very easily. You will be able to understand basically the accounting processes very easily. It will be like a story for you, because what you're doing, it's not changing your business process, it's simply automating your business process by bringing a system change. What you have been doing in, say, small systems or small ERPs, now it will be like an integrated large ERPs, but the business process wise it will be pretty much same, or maybe minor differences in terms of automation. So you will be able to understand very easily. So as I said, if you are in financials, then you may handpick the modules, say account payables or receivables or general ledger, project costing or subledger accounting, and you've got to have knowledge of whole lot of these modules to be successful in that field. Okay, you can be an expert, say you can be an expert in general ledger module, but you got to have knowledge in all these modules because they are all interlinked. Okay, so that's how it worked. So now let's understand what's the next step. So first step was you got to align what you want in terms of your present job versus the Oracle process flow. Second is, out of that Oracle process flow, you handpick the modules. Now what's the third step? The third step is you've got to learn it in the right way. You can simply jump the gun and start learning. You've got to first learn the transactional cycle of that module first, or of that process flow first. Once you understand how the transaction works end to end, then you actually go and do the next step of setup and implementation of that module. A simple example could be, since we've been talking about order management, first thing you may want to learn is how to enter an order. Second thing is how to schedule an order. Third one is how to book that order. Then once a booking is done, how do you pick and ship that order? And once an order is shipped to the customer, how an invoice gets generated in account receivables. And once an invoice is generated, then you may want to understand how collections works and how collections work with the customer to finally get the payment. And once a payment is received, how do you link back or match it to the invoice? And once that's been done, how you post the accounting entries via subledger accounting module to general ledger. So that's kind of a end-to-end process flow in terms of transactional process flow. So once you have that understanding, you know the transaction, how it works, then what? Then you've got to implement it in the system. So first is learn the transaction first. Then once you learn it, then you would say that, okay, as a part of order entry, then what do you have to do? First thing is you've got to have the order types. defined in the system. So you go and define the order types. Then you got to have the customers. So you got to define the customers. Then you may require inventory setups in terms of you got to have the items. Of course, orders are booked for every item. So you go and define those items in inventory. Then items will have ATP, items will be residing in inventories and warehouses. So that's where you define and do more setups in inventory module in terms of defining the items, defining the warehouses, the sub-inventories, locators within those sub-inventories, and so on. Fine. And once you have done that, then part of your inventory side is over. Then you will look for other dependent modules like pricing or receivables to complete rest of the setups. So you will do all these setups, or you will dig around and find out more knowledge about this setup only when you are very, very clear on the transactional cycle. So as a first step, you must learn the transaction cycle. As a next step, you should learn the setup. And then implementation comes into picture when you actually work with the client. Setup, you can do it sitting at your home in a standalone instance, but where the implementation comes when you've got a business requirements received from the client and you're giving a solution to the business, and if it is accepted, then you implement that solution using Oracle process flows to have client business process flow come into Oracle for automation, audit, and reporting, and they're basically day-to-day business operations. So that's the whole way you've got to go about learning it. So that was an example of order management. Likewise, you can take any example in any process flows. That's how you should be able to learn. As an example, if it is related to purchasing side, in that purchasing side, then you know how to go about identifying suppliers, and then once you identified the supplier, how to do sourcing and negotiation. Once you complete sourcing and negotiation, then how to raise the purchase order, how to communicate to the supplier, and how, when supplier provides that goods or services against that purchase order, you've got to send invoice to the supplier, or basically supplier sends you invoice. How do you go about paying those suppliers for those invoices, and so on. So that's on the other side, on the purchasing side, in terms of transactional cycle. And once you understand that, the next step is setting up an implementation of that purchasing cycle. So that's the step. Of course, it's not step 2, it's like a typo, so it's like step 3 out here. So you've got to learn the right way. Now let's understand now in terms of the resources, what all resources can be utilized to expedite your Oracle functional career path. So what I've done here is prepared a list of those resources. So the first recommended approach I would say is to take a training from an expert Oracle consultant who has got implementation experience. So by that, what happens is he can bridge the gap that a technical consultant has in terms of understanding the end-to-end process flows. And what we do it as from ACL, as we do that as a part of bridging that gaps between what a technical consultant knows and what is required to understand the end-to-end process flow to be a functional consultant, and that is offered in the form of recorded trainings. So let's understand a couple of features that we have. So basically at ACL we offer a way which explains the Oracle business process flows by taking a real life business scenarios. So you don't have to actually struggle in understanding. Everything is explained in a way which goes in your head by taking a practical business scenario. And every training follows the path that I've explained you. So the first step is understanding the transactional cycle, this one, and then we go to the next step of letting you understand the setup and implementation which follows. So everywhere we first make sure that the student comprehend the whole transaction cycle of that module. Then every ACL training are delivered by highly experienced Oracle consultants. So if you ask me, I'm a Oracle a consultant who has got over 13 years of experience, and I have worked with Oracle Corporation itself, apart from other large corporation, as an employer or as customers. So that's where I can bring all that experience together and give the essence to a potential student who can easily digest that information without thinking too much about the technical terms. Then we provide low cost trainings which can be accessible on demand 24/7, because these are recorded videos, so you can simply sit at your home, and if you can learn it at your own slow pace or fast pace, whatever your level is. So since it's on demand, you can access it 24/7. So essentially it gives you a lot of flexibility to learn at your own pace. So if you would like to know more about our offerings, feel free to go to our website, which is www.aclnz.com. The second approach, if you consider or if you have constraints in this recommended approach, then you can go to the second approach of self-learning. So what's a self-learning? Self-learning is you can simply go and look at standard implementation guide and user guide for the product which comes as a part of Oracle eBusiness Suite. So you can simply go to this website, www.docs.oracle.com. You'll find a whole library of Oracle documentation for eBusiness Suite out there. You can simply download them, or you can use browser to go through HTML based books as well, and you can learn as you go. So that's another way. Or lastly, there are a whole lot of documents. You can find it on Google. So if you simply Google it, something that you're looking for, there will be hundreds of hits or thousands of hits that would come up. You can pick and choose as to what you want, and you would be able to identify them. But the hassle about all that is, you won't have a place to go about asking your questions. You will not have a coach who can guide you through understanding this process flows, and you kind of you have to dig around and find that information yourself. Whereas the first approach is, if you've got someone to let you understand the training or let you understand the process flow, then it goes very quickly in your head, and it's like less struggle and fast approach. So basically you end up in realizing your career goals faster that way. And final method of learning which came to your mind is you can join Oracle community in your area. It's called as Oracle user groups, or there are a whole lot of communities. Again, I would suggest you to go to Google and try searching it by keywords such as Oracle user group or Oracle communities, and there would be a lot of resources which will come up onto that. So communities helps you, wherein you can connect with existing Oracle consultants, speak to them, and probably try to leverage their experience. But chances are that you may not get more time because from them, because they are already full-time. They would be full-time Oracle consultants. But it's always good to have or good to be part of that community, because who knows, you would be able to find someone who can help you learn Oracle, or who can share their own experiences in terms of how they have executed the project in the past, the challenge they have faced, or maybe how they have changed their functional career. So these are the kind of resources, I would say, which could be available at your hand to expedite your Oracle functional career. So that leads me to the end of this webinar. So I would give time to everyone to ask question and answers at this point of time. So any questions at this point in terms of what I have taken you through, or if you've got any questions in terms of switching your career from a technical consultant to a functional consultant, then please let me know. I would give around 10 to 15 minutes time on this, since we are running short of time and it's close to an hour already. So let's give around 10 minutes time, and I'm happy to answer your questions. All right, everyone. So thanks for asking your questions, and I hope I could help you in uh, in detailing some of the aspect which would go in some way of helping you out in reaching your career goals as a functional consultant, in helping you out in changing your career from a technical consultant to a functional consultant. If you have any questions or if you would like to speak to me, simply send me an email at sales at aclnz.com. That is SALES at aclnz.com. And thank you very much for your time for attending this session. Good luck, everyone. Goodbye.